Imagine this. A can of bright orange soda hisses open. Sweet fizz. Sunshine color. Now, freeze that frame. Because this drink was born in one of history's darkest laboratories. Wartime Germany. When the world shut its borders, a local bottler, cut off from Coca-Cola syrup, had to improvise. Leftover fruit waste, starch, chemicals, mixed together into a new beverage. They called it Fanta. It wasn't propaganda. It was adaptation. A symbol of how business keeps moving, even when the world burns. Finny once said, "History doesn't die. It just changes the label." And tonight, we follow the money, through boardrooms, banks, and battlefields, to see how one nation's fortune funded a dictator, and how its echoes still ripple through today's economy. Early 1930s. A nation broken by defeat, debt, and despair. Prices soared. Jobs vanished. Families traded furniture for bread. The middle class, the heart of modern Germany, was collapsing. Among the chaos, a fringe politician promised revival. But his movement was broke. No payroll for his followers. No funds for rallies. Only anger and ambition. Then, behind the polished doors of Berlin's industrial elite, a quiet dinner changed everything. 25 of the country's wealthiest businessmen gathered in February 1933. They saw opportunity where others saw madness, and they wrote checks. That night, the would-be dictator found his first investors. To the tycoons, this new leader wasn't a fanatic. He was a solution. He promised stable markets, an end to labor strikes, and contracts for weapons, roads, and steel. Chemical giant IG Farben pledged hundreds of thousands of Reichsmarks. Mining and armament groups followed. Banks opened new accounts. It wasn't ideology, it was business. They expected tax cuts, not tyranny. But when money meets power, control blurs fast. Within months, a new fund appeared, the Adolf Hitler Fund of German Industry. It began voluntary, soon became expected, and finally unavoidable. Thousands of firms paid in. Cars, chemicals, consumer goods, each contribution buying favor and silence. Finny once warned, "When you pay into the system, don't act surprised by what it buys." By treaty, Germany wasn't allowed to rebuild its army. Yet factories were humming again. How? A clever finance minister created a ghost corporation, Metallurgische Forschungsgesellschaft, or simply MIFO. MIFO built nothing, sold nothing. But banks could lend it money. Those loans paid real factories to make planes and tanks, without showing up on public books. Between 1934 and 1938, more than 12 billion Reichsmarks flowed through this shell game. The economy revived. Unemployment plunged. The illusion worked. Finny called it smoke, mirrors, and steel, the perfect trinity of denial. Germany wasn't alone. Foreign subsidiaries of international firms continued trading, even as tensions rose. Data companies provided machines that organized information. Automakers supplied vehicles through local divisions. Banking networks moved gold and currency through neutral intermediaries. No single company caused a war, but collectively, commerce enabled it. It showed how capital crosses borders even when conscience cannot. By the late 1930s, the industrial machine and the political machine were one. Private factories filled government orders. Labor unions were dissolved. Wages froze. Profits climbed. Dissent disappeared. When conflict exploded, business adapted again. Production scaled to military demand. Captured territories supplied raw materials. And forced labor replaced free labor. One synthetic rubber plant, near occupied Poland, even built worker camps beside its walls. A grim reminder that efficiency can turn monstrous. Finny whispered, "When profit outruns conscience, someone always pays the fare." The empire fell. Cities lay in ashes. Leaders on trial. Evidence piled high. At the Nuremberg hearings, executives from major corporations faced justice. Some received sentences. Many didn't. Because soon, a new world was forming. And it needed them. As the Cold War began, Western powers looked for industrial strength against the East. Who better to rebuild factories than those who already ran them? And so, many returned to their desks. Companies once tied to wartime production rebranded, merged, and thrived. Chemical conglomerates split into new names. BASF, Bayer, Hoechst. Automakers re-emerged as luxury titans. Banks regained dominance. The logos changed. The ledgers endured. With post-war aid and a booming global market, Germany became a pillar of modern capitalism. Products labeled "Made in Germany" regained prestige. The same efficiency that once fueled war now powered prosperity. And around the world, other nations watched and learned. Governments partnered with corporations to rebuild infrastructure, manage debt, and control inflation. It was a new kind of alliance. Boardroom and parliament, hand in hand. Fast forward to today. The ghost company may be gone, but its blueprint isn't. Shell firms hide money offshore. Lobby funds buy access. Global conglomerates influence policy as subtly as generals once moved troops. The battlefield is digital. Algorithms instead of artillery, data instead of gunpowder. And the same question lingers. Who funds power? And at what cost? Pause for a second. Open your fridge, your phone, your investment app. Every logo, every brand, every share certificate carries a lineage. Some of those lineages lead straight back to the 1930s. Are these companies evil? No, but history leaves fingerprints that compound like interest. Because economies don't have memories, people do. And people forget fast. Think about how this story began, with a can of soda. A product created from scarcity and survival, now sold as joy. That's capitalism's paradox. The ability to rebrand necessity as luxury, history as marketing. When you hear the phrase, business is business, remember what that dinner table in 1933 really purchased. A future, financed by fear, and built by hands that rarely saw the reward. So next time you scroll, sip, or spend, look closer. Because behind every fortune is a story of risk, innovation, and sometimes remorse. And the real lesson isn't to cancel the past. It's to learn how easily profit can outrun principle, and how every generation must decide which one it serves. The fortune that funded a dictator didn't vanish. It transformed. It reinvested. And its descendants sit quietly inside pension funds, consumer goods, and global markets. We can't rewrite history, but we can read the fine print of the present. If this story made you see your world a little differently, join Finny. Because the next tale follows another empire of influence, one that nearly toppled democracy itself. And once again, the trail begins with money.